stage again today and this year to talk about AI. And I know that this is a relevant topic for so many of us, and it's something that's coming up in a lot of our organizations. And while Erin talked a lot about capacity planning and her use case around how she was able to leverage AI to help her, I thought I'd give you guys a couple more use cases that you can take back with you that you can start using today. So what I'm going to talk to you about today is this AI-powered customer success mindset and how I've designed these kind of principles around these 5 Ps in customer success and around AI that have helped me kind of forge my framework around leveraging AI to drive change in my organization. So quick show of hands, who here is trying to figure out how do we leverage AI into your customer success strategy? I mean, humor me, if not everyone's hand is up. I don't know what you're doing. Maybe you're trying to figure out your churn problem, but this could help. Every person I have talked to, and I have the privilege and honor of speaking with so many professionals all the time, and this comes up in every single conversation. Now, obviously, some are at a different point in their maturation where they are definitely trying to think through things in a more advanced way, but there's not one conversation that I have where AI doesn't come up to some extent. And this is just our new reality, right? And we've got to figure out how to do this quickly. It's not something that we can all wait around for technology to dictate how we're going to think about this. I think that's what a lot of us have been doing, right? We've got this massive tech stack, and we've got all these tools, and we're like, okay, great. We're waiting for them to innovate, or we're encouraging them to innovate. We're submitting feature ideas and product requests, and we're saying, great, when technology gets there, we're going to be able to do our jobs better. We're going to be more efficient. But that's just not the case. We cannot wait. Now, I'll tell you something. We're all thinking about this, and this is just not something all of us in this room are thinking about. It's the entire ecosystem, right? When we think about this, 79% of all businesses have stated that AI will be critical to their success this year and into next year. 79%. Now, I'm actually interested in figuring out who those other companies are that aren't. That number is more impressive because that feels high, that you're not thinking about AI or you haven't assumed that it would be impactful to your business. You got 64% of businesses see AI as a catalyst for productivity enhancement. That's big. So we're not only thinking about how it's going to help us innovate and drive change in our businesses, but from a productivity standpoint. And then 25% of companies are leveraging AI to address labor shortages, reshaping our workforce dynamics. Now, this is an interesting one to me, especially as we continue to see so many companies go through their own changes. How many of you have been impacted by a layoff, whether you yourself or somebody on your team or an organization? Right. Now, a lot of these companies that are doing this, maybe some of them will rehire, some of them won't. And a lot of these companies now are actually trying to figure out, well, with less personnel to do the things, how are we thinking about how do we leverage AI? And that is the driving force for how they're thinking about their future. Now, I'm telling you, if you think that this is going to continue to slow down, it's not. Now, do I think that AI is going to replace people? I don't. But it's definitely going to be part of this evolution around efficiency. And that's big. Now, I don't think that AI will replace us, but I do think that if you are not adopting and learning how to use AI, you will be left behind. And that's a fact. So I want you to all just imagine this for a second. Imagine that your customer success team can anticipate needs, automate routine tasks, and deliver personalized experiences, predicting outcomes with precision. How many of you want that reality? Yes, all of us, I know. Because that is what we're striving for. Right? We're all trying to work towards this model where we're seeing this be our future. And I do think that we can get there, but it is going to take a little time. So several months back, I was talking with Dave, and we're kind of thinking about, he kind of asked me and said, well, how are you thinking about AI, right? Because I lead customer success, but ironically, I do this at a customer success company. So for me, it's a little bit more important that I'm thinking about this because this doesn't impact me. It impacts our technology. It impacts how we consult with our customers, right? There's so much around why I need to be thinking about this. Now, we all need to be thinking about it, but for me, it was a little critical in that moment. And so I was like, email automation, write my emails, do something. And I was thinking about it like very in this micro lens of like, just make my life slightly better. And that was the wrong way to think about it. So I took this question that Dave gave me, right? Like, how am I thinking about this? And I was like, okay, I don't know, but it's got to be bigger than the way I'm thinking about it today. And I knew that. So what I had designed was this framework in my head around these 5 Ps. Now, I'm just somebody who likes that, right? Like, everything has the same letter. That's why half my team starts with the letter K. It makes me feel better. I had Krista, Kristi, Kristen, Kyle. And we all have September birthdays. So I like things to match, so hence my 5 Ps. These are my 5 Ps. So I thought, okay, customer success and AI will come together in a way that will solve things through this lens. It's going to help us be predictive. It's going to help us be proactive. It's going to make us all more productive. We'll be able to be more prescriptive, and we'll be able to create personalized experiences. So those were my 5 Ps. Now, I'm sure there's a whole bunch of other words and a whole bunch of other letters that can probably be built into this framework. But for me, I felt like these 5 encompassed what was important to me and how I saw the future of AI and customer success. So then I started thinking, okay, if these are my 5 Ps and these are the principles, well, what are the things, or how will I think about AI solving these problems or these challenges or these opportunities? And so I started to design a little framework in my head, right? And so I thought of, okay, if I'm thinking about AI in terms of being more predictive, well, how can it be predictive for us? So I thought, okay, we're going to use it. We're going to use data. We're going to use analytics. We're going to use AI to help us forecast the future of customer success, of customer behaviors and their needs and their outcomes, right? That's how I thought it could help us be more predictive. Then I thought, okay, well, how can it help us be more proactive? Because that's the other thing, right? How many of us are struggling to be more proactive? Now we've got less people on our teams, but we still have to be proactive in supporting all of our customers. Well, proactive isn't just being able to do something before your customer asks, right? So then I was like, okay, how do we anticipate the needs of our customers? And that's where this one was going to be key for us. How do we think about their needs, their challenges, and the opportunities that are sitting in front of us? So I thought, okay, how can we be proactive through that lens? Then it was, how do we be more productive? Because this is a big part of it. Now, what I loved about Ara's presentation yesterday is she framed this around the need to be productive, and this is why her capacity planning was so key, right? She had to figure out what is the bandwidth that her team had to be more productive and to do the work that she was tasking her team to do. Well, so then I thought about, how do we optimize time, right, and our resources? And how do we drive this effectiveness and efficiency around the organizations that we run? And then I thought about being prescriptive, because it's not enough to do all of that, right? Especially as we think about our teams. How do we help encourage our teams? They don't always know what to do, when to do it, and how to do it. And historically, what we've done is we've relied on these archaic playbooks, right? Like, oh, all customer success teams are going to do these seven things, and when that thing happens, it'll trigger it, and you're going to have all these tasks and activities, and go do. That was then. That is not the future of how we need to be thinking about this. That is not productive. That is not prescriptive. That was us saying all of our customers are the same. And in these specific moments, they're going to need the exact same things. And we're going to hold our teams accountable to doing these exact same things all the time. And that's just not the way we need to be thinking about our customers. It's not the way we need to be thinking about our teams. So I thought about being more prescriptive. How do we use the data, analytics, and insights so that we can really create the right tasks and activities that our teams are doing? So how do we provide our customers with clear and actionable insights and recommendations? How do we provide that same experience to our teams? And then I thought about personalization, because this was really important to me. Your customers are people, right? And we talked about this, like, people are connecting with other people, and they want it to feel that way. And even, listen, I know every time I get an email that, "Dear Kristi," or "Hi Kristi," I know nobody wrote that. I know that this is like some token in a form that was filled out with some data, and half the time they get my name and title wrong anyway, it's fine. But I know that they're attempting to be personalized because we as humans want that feeling, that somebody knows us, they know what we need and how we need it. And that's critical. And so I thought, okay, how do we use AI to be more personalized? How do we create these personalized experiences for our customers? And so do we tailor the interactions, right? This was a big part of it for me. So like I said, these probably aren't the only things we need to be thinking about, but I had to start somewhere, and this framework has given me the ability to think so creatively about AI. Now, here's a challenge that I feel and I'm sure all of us feel it, but I'm going to say I feel a little bit more just working at ClientSuccess, where we're trying to deliver this for our customers. But the demand for AI functionality right now is greater than the pace of innovation. It's true. I don't care how big your organization is. I don't care how great your tech stack is. I don't care. Companies have to pivot and drive real change. And if you've got a very comprehensive technology, right, think about what your roadmap needs to look like to change and evolve, to build out all of these things. And I'm not talking about features and functionality. Companies need to be now built on this AI-first framework. That's big change. I even talked to some companies that are like, you know what, we're ready to throw out our entire product and start from scratch, because it's easier to do that than to pivot and try to rebuild. And so this is, as leaders and as customer success professionals, this is our reality. And this is why I said we cannot wait around for our tech stacks to catch up. We have to figure out, how do we use what's available to us today and what's in front of us to drive real change? And so that's kind of what I want to talk about today, is this we can't wait. And if you think that you can, I'm here to tell you that you can't. Because whatever you're not doing, however you're not innovating, your lack of innovation around AI is going to be prohibitive, and it's going to cost you. Maybe not today, but I promise you that will catch up. And so I don't want to wait. I don't want you guys to wait. So I want to share some ideas that I have around how to think about these 5 Ps in practical application. Because what I've been trying to do is rethink and reframe how I use ChatGPT, and that's what we're going to talk about today. And I know that there's a ton of others, so please don't ask me, have I thought about 8 other technologies? Yes, go use whatever you want. I use ChatGPT. These examples are going to be based on the framework that I used, using that to help me think about what change will look like for me and how can I embrace that. Now, I do want to say, though, if you're thinking about AI through the lens of like these tactical little things, you're also thinking about it wrong. And that is how I approached it at first. I was like, oh, okay, it's going to write me better emails. Okay. It's going to do this other little thing for me. And that was just wrong. I was so short-sighted in how I was thinking about using it. And in fact, the output of it wasn't even that great, because I wasn't thinking big. It wasn't giving me big answers. So I needed to change how I thought about integrating this into my daily routine. And so what I shifted my mindset around is, okay, well, if I had a personal assistant, which one day I will get, I promise. If I had a personal assistant, though, what would I be asking them to do? Or if I had anybody who could kind of grant me all of my wishes and just give me what I needed to be wildly successful, what would that look like? So that's how I started thinking about it. And I will tell you, that mindset shift about what it could actually deliver, it empowered me to get more creative. Now, I will tell you, just like this creativity, you're going to need to iterate on it. I promise you, you will never get it right the first time. So the first couple outputs of what I thought was like genius was garbage. So there's 2 G's for you. And so that's something you also have to remember, is that your first attempt at this, you will likely get it wrong. Your second attempt, it'll still be wrong. You're going to have to play with this for a while. You're going to have to iterate on it. You're going to have to finesse it. We talked about prompts yesterday being so critical, and that I will tell you, if I'm spending any of my time doing work, it's designing prompts. And I don't mean like paragraph, I mean like comprehensive, detailed prompts. And I will tell you something, I use ChatGPT to help me write my prompts. Because I'm like, okay, I need more depth here. What am I missing? And so like that's the level of creativity, right? Like I didn't want to limit myself, because I'm like, I know that there's more I'm not thinking of. And so how can I continue to get more creative, and what is the depth that I need to be thinking through? Your time is going to be spent there. And I promise you, though, once you get it right, that time will feel well spent. So I'm going to give you 5 examples, 1 for each P, that you can kind of take back and think about. Now, remember, I'm not going to go into the depth that Eric did yesterday, because I'm not giving you one deep use case, but I want you to take what I'm giving you today, and I want this to be the catalyst of your thought process and your innovation of how you approach this. So I'm going to give you some ideas, and then I want you to take them back and make them your own. So we'll start with the first one, this predictive use case. So I started thinking about, okay, well, just like we talked about earlier, right? We need to be more predictive. We're going to need to be able to forecast. How do I understand which of my customers are churning? So I was like, okay, great. Well, we can definitely use some of what we have available in ChatGPT to do this. Obviously, you're anonymizing your data. You're not putting anything in there that's going to get you in trouble. So that is my disclaimer. So if you do that, that's your problem. I told you not to. Very good. I don't need you guys coming back to me and say, well, Kristi told me to go do da-da-da-da-da-da-da, and I have a lawsuit. So no. Anonymize your data, take your customer names out, anything else that identifies your customers, take it out. But once you do that, I will tell you a little hack that I did is I actually just assigned all of my customers a letter of the alphabet, and then when you get past a certain number, you go like AA, BB, like all that. And so that way I could actually map it back. So if I wanted customer data, that's my little cheap little hack. I'm sure somebody will come up with a better idea, but that's all I could think of. But I assigned every customer name a letter, and then that was how I was able to map it back when I took the data and put it back into Excel. Okay, so let's talk about this predictive use case. So this is what I did is I was trying to figure out, okay, I want to understand which of my customers might churn. Now we also know, cut me some slack here, and I'm gonna cut yourselves some slack. Just because it comes back here and says that they will does not mean they definitely will. And I've seen happy, successful customers churn, and I've seen miserable, unsuccessful customers stay. It's just to help you figure out where do you start. Right? Where do you prioritize your time? So do not use this and say like, oh, well, go to your board and say, these are our numbers. I promise this is exactly what's going to happen 6 months from now, because you'll be in trouble. And then you're going to try to come back to me again, and I don't want to hear it. So first thing I did is I wanted to analyze the customer data, right? So I talked about just feeding this into ChatGPT, and I said I wanted to understand things like I was looking at customer data, engagement, and metrics, and ticket history, all the things that you would almost use in your health score. Right? So I'm kind of using that data to just understand the patterns and identify common patterns across the customers. And then also I was using historical data, so like of my customers that stayed, what did they look like? And then my customers who left, what did they look like? Because that's going to help me understand also the patterns of predictability. Then I started to say, okay, great, churn risk prediction. I asked ChatGPT, can you flag which of these customers are displaying bad behavior? Who is not acting like a good customer? Right? We know that behaviors should dictate that, so I looked at that. And then I categorized this into different risk levels. Again, this is high-level guidance of what you would do here. Prescriptive recommendations on action. I asked ChatGPT, I said, can you suggest personalized retention strategies based off of what we were seeing? Now listen, if you have a long tail and you're talking about thousands of customers, that one might not be interesting to you because you might not be able to do that if you don't have a way to kind of automate this stuff, if you don't have a digital strategy that would help you apply this to the masses. But if you just use this for one segment of your customers and you said, these are the customers we absolutely want to focus on, we absolutely can go and do something about, this would be a great way to figure out where to start. And then I said, okay, well now I want to start to manage some proactive communication to help around this, because if I know that they're at risk and they might churn, I want to do something about it. And so I used ChatGPT to just help us draft some data and emails around this. That included the data and insights that I found as the output. And so this was helping me figure out, again, that churn prediction, that a proactive retention strategy. This is how you could use it. Now I will tell you, I have a whole bunch more steps, but for simplicity's sake and the time that I have remaining for today, that's all you get. Okay. Next one up is this proactive use case. Proactive customer adoption based on usage data. So how do I think about how customers are adopting this? So first I wanted to identify poor adoption situations, right? Again, who is not behaving like a good customer? So I, again, anonymized that data, and I used it, I put it into ChatGPT. I said, help me find patterns where customers are underutilizing the product. But I didn't want to just say, like, who's just underutilizing it, like, login is yes, no. Like, what did that actually look like? So you do need to have some telemetry. You do need to have that usage data to really get some depth behind this. And I asked specific questions. Now, the cool thing about this is I always feel like it's like a magic 8-ball, only with better responses. So asking it great questions, right? Shake that magic 8-ball. What do I want to know about who these customers are? Now, what I always do is I put on my Dave hat, right? What would Dave ask me about my customers? So you can insert with your own CEO's name. What would that person ask you about your customers? And so when I do that, it helps me to understand, okay, great, these are the things I need to be able to answer. So then something as simple as drafting emails, right? Like, instead of having your team start from scratch, and I will tell you, drafting a really thoughtful email that includes data and insights that are personalized to a specific situation, it takes time. If you've never done it, I promise you, it takes time. We oversimplify communication and think like, oh, well, that should take you like 3 minutes. I have drafted emails for over an hour. That is a me problem, not a you problem, but it does happen. So bonus points on this one if you have your customers' goals, right? And so that is something that I love about ClientSuccess, and not to plug our software here because that's not what this is about, but we do have the ability to track our customers' goals, and so when we can insert that information in there as well, we can actually talk to our customers about, hey, this is what you were trying to do with our technology, and this is what you said you wanted to achieve through this partnership, but the behaviors that you're dictating to us don't really show that that is going to be an outcome. right? And so like that's the type of communication we want to nurture. So then proactive educational content. You can use ChatGPT to create content. I will tell you, if your knowledge base is open and it is not a gated resource, and if you've got enough content online, ChatGPT has read it, and if you go there and say, hey, give me direction on how to go do this thing in ClientSuccess, I guarantee you, your product, you're gonna get all those answers. Pretty cool. So how can I go and draft stuff to help guide my customers on what to do next? It's not enough to say, hey, you're bad, right? You're not doing what you said you wanted to do, but here's where I'm seeing that we can go and help you. And so giving them something, a little teaser to help them engage with you so you can get ahead of these things. And then setting up a playbook. Now, when I think about this, I don't think about, again, the archaic playbooks I just poo-pooed all over. This is more specific to this customer is acting like this, they're doing these things or they're not doing these things, they want these outcomes. What are the things that we can do in those moments? It becomes a more prescriptive guide, and that's what I'm using this to design. Your next one is productive use cases. So how can we be more productive? In this case, streamlining customer success reporting. How many of you struggle with reporting? You're all liars. Everybody who didn't raise your hand, it's because you have your phone in your hands, which I love, and you're taking pictures of my slides. So I'll let it pass. Okay, so in this case, I love this because what you're gonna be able to do is ask different questions. Again, going back to that need of depth and insight. So I love this for that. So if I think about this, automatic report generation. If you're entering in customer data, again, anonymized, you can start to find patterns, right? And this underutilization. So in this case, again, I'm going back to asking specific questions around certain areas. Creating report summaries. Oh, gosh, I love this. I have a wealth of data and lots of information, but again, I don't know about any of you, but we do leadership meetings every Monday morning, not every morning, every Monday morning. And so I have to be able to go look at my data and then summarize it so that I have a high level understanding of what I'm seeing and what I'm hearing and like what's happening, so I can speak intelligently to it. Now, obviously, I'm gonna go review all the data, but I have to synthesize that and share that with my peers. This helps you do that. Now, again, bonus points if you have your customers' goals in there, because you can actually use that to guide this a little bit more strategically. Who is working towards what and how are they driving that? Change in comparison insights. I am always looking at this, like which of my customers have changed from the previous week or the previous month, right? Who's going in the right direction, who's going in the wrong direction? Those trends and those patterns, if you're using this over a period of time, you'll be able to curate those insights as well. And trends are really where that, I think, wealth of data lives. So that's what I'm always striving for, is where can I find those trends and insights? Because if my team is doing certain things, is it having a positive impact, or is it having no impact, or is it having a negative impact? That's the narrative you want to be able to draw from that. So I should be able to go and say, because my team is doing X, Y, and Z, we're seeing this. Or because the customer is not doing A, B, and C, we're seeing that. This helps you, those comparison insights. And then creating action plans. Again, I love this because you're taking the insights and the data that you're collecting and you're putting a plan together, and that is really important. Your next one is your prescriptive use case. So next best action. Okay, so that's like one word. It's supposed to be like one word. Like next best action. Like what is the next thing the person should be doing for growth? So next best action. So first thing is analyzing customer data, because you're always going to start with that. I'm sorry, that should have just been like you should just have that as like, this is your pillar, and then build off of that. But I'm looking at things like usage data, feedback, performance metrics. I'm asking ChatGPT, analyze the trends, identify, again, where customers are underutilizing certain things. Then being able to offer personalized recommendations. Again, it's that ability, this one could fall into personalization or prescriptive, but in this case, I want to be able to say, hey, you're not doing these things, here's what you should be doing. Or, you're doing great, here's what's next. And that's the cooler story, right? For your customers who feel like they've maximized the value out of your product, and maybe you're the CSM or maybe you're the leader and you're trying to help your customer figure out what to do next, sometimes you could feel overwhelmed and you could kind of run out of ideas, and sometimes you are just drawing a blank. This helps guide you, right? So if you know that your customers have done this really well, what is next? What is that next best action? Right? And this is the insight your customers are waiting for. That is the value in your conversations. So if your CSMs are out there doing check-ins, if they even use the word check-in, you should be thinking about what is the value that we're driving. The value is in this. You being able to understand exactly what your customers are doing and what do they need to do next to get more value from it. So this one is a great way to help guide and create a step-by-step guidance for your customers. And what I love most about this, if we go back to the Loom conversation yesterday in the video, create a video for your customers telling them what to do in advance before your call, tell them to do it or try it, and then you get on your call and you can talk about it. There's value in that. So this is where this becomes really helpful because you're creating this prescriptive playbook, but it is really tailored to your customers based on where they are and where they need to go. And the last is being able to create customer success plans. Now, I have mixed feelings about this because things change, and I feel like plans to me feel very static, and they don't evolve as quickly. And so like if you're somebody who's creating customer success plans in like a Word doc, that it just feels very hard for me because we are all having to move so fast, and I feel like that kind of documentation doesn't keep up with the speed of how we're all running our businesses and your customers are behaving. So I do like this for ChatGPT, though, to help build a prescriptive plan with and for your customers that is based in the moment. It's not based on a plan that they designed when you first got them on board and they told you what their goals were 24 months ago. This is a very fluid conversation that you're having and saying, here's what you're going to do based off of what you're doing yesterday. Right? What you did yesterday, here's what you go do tomorrow. And so this just helps you be kind of operating in real time to drive more of that value. And then to create a personalized use case, tailored engagement based on specific needs. So again, you're going to see all these things have a little bit of that kind of overlap in them, but I don't like the word check-in, but for simplicity's sake, I did use it on my slide. So tailored to check-in emails, but you'll see here there's a little bit more value in it. Having ChatGPT help you draft personalized check-in emails, but again, it's based off of your customer's unique situation. So again, if you're using all the data that we've already inputted based off of my other 4 use cases, you've got a wealth of data in there. Your emails should be so personalized based off of who your customer is, what they want to achieve, where are they today, and what should they do next. So this email has a wealth of value in it. It's not like, hey, haven't talked to you in 6 months, want to get on a call? And I get those emails, so I know that there are CSMs who still behave that way. This has so much more value. This is how we should be delivering for our customers and showing up for our customers because we know who they are, we know what they want, we know what they're doing, and we know how to get them there. Use ChatGPT, though. Again, avoid doing what I do and spending an hour writing an email. Personalized renewal emails. I love this for that. How many of you send out emails that sound something like, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Customer, you've got a renewal coming up in 90 or 120 days. Here's how that process will go. Let's get on a call to talk about our renewal. How many of you do something to that effect? The rest of you are lying. But yes, thank you for those of you who are honest and vulnerable. That is true. Most of us are running initiating renewal conversations that way with a lack of value in it, and a lack of understanding, right? It's so cold. You don't know who your customers are. You should know who they are, what they're doing, and even if they would renew. So this will help you create a personalized email around that. Right? You have seen so much success. You've done all of these things. We actually have a whole roadmap of stuff that we're going to continue to do together. So our relationship needs to continue because I've got all this gold on the other side of this rainbow for you. See it and dangle that carrot. So that's what that kind of email can help initiate, is this kind of future value that they can get, not just stopping where they are today, which a lot of us do. Customer educational emails. This is a fan favorite of mine because I feel like there's always ways to continue to educate our customers. I will tell you, and some of you are my customers, we have had conversations about things maybe 6 months ago, and you've forgotten by now. You don't remember that we talked about that 6 months ago, and then I'll have a conversation with you tomorrow, and I'll say, hey, do you remember that thing we talked about, or our product does that? And they're like, oh, I didn't know it did that. And I don't blame them. They've got so much on their plate. They've got so much going on. They forgot. Their job is not to memorize my product. But we can come back to these things, and I can educate them and use ChatGPT to help you create these educational pieces that drive value, help advance them. Industry-specific recommendations. I really like this because I am not an industry expert in every industry, right? I'm not a healthcare expert. I'm not a finance expert. In fact, anyone who's seen me do math would know that. I am not an expert in all of these other industries. But what's cool is ChatGPT is more knowledgeable than we are. And so I can actually use this to say, based on your industry, and here's all these cool insights and learnings, and based on what you do and what you're supposed to do, here's the ways that you could be using our product. Or here's how other people in your industry are thinking, or goals that they're working on, and use that. So many times I see our CSMs in every company I've actually ever worked at. It's like, hey, is there another CSM that has a customer that looks like this, that is doing that behaves this way, who also is stuck? Well, you don't have to do that. Use the data that you just imported in here and say, tell me 3 customers in this industry that look like X. And now you have those, and you can talk about what those customers are doing and how they behave and what they're focused on, and use that to curate an email. So what I'm saying here is that these use cases are limitless. If we use this creatively, it's going to help us just deliver so much more value for our customers. So these were 5 of my use cases. I'm going to leave you with a few things because I have 6 seconds left, so we're going to do this in 5 seconds or less. So I'm going to just encourage you to think differently. And I think if you take nothing away from everything I said today, is to think differently. Because I was very limited in my thought around how to use this, and I'm confident that even the way I'm thinking about it today is still a bit limited. So think about leveraging AI as your assistant. Task it with doing the things you don't want to do. I don't know about you, but that list is very long because I don't want to do a lot of things. So make your list and then use AI to go and be your assistant. Spend more time building out your prompts. I said this at the beginning. If you spend time doing anything as leaders now, it should be designing these very creative, in-depth prompts. Things that you can use again, maybe things that have tokens in it and frameworks that you can kind of repurpose for different use cases. Save them. Save them somewhere. Put them in a library. They are gold. Do not lose them. And the third thing I will tell you to do is just iterate. You're going to have to continue to iterate on this because you guys are going to continue to change. Your customers are changing. So even though you create these awesome prompts and are doing all this cool stuff today, I guarantee you 3 months from now, there will need to have been an evolution on that. So you're going to need to iterate. You're going to have to figure out how to get it right. So I'm just going to encourage you to just be open to that and don't think that it's a set it and forget it strategy. Just because you did it once and it worked and you nailed it does not mean you are done. You're going to have to continue to iterate on that. So if you are creative and you think differently about this, I promise you the sky's the limit with this. Technology will catch up. We will all get there. I can tell you the ClientSuccess roadmap is very heavily focused on AI right now. So we're all going to catch up and get you what you need. But in the meantime, do not sit around and wait. I gave you a ton of things today to help encourage you to think differently. So thank you guys so much. I don't know if we have time for questions. We do not. Come find me. Find me on LinkedIn. I'm happy to answer questions. Thank you guys so much.